Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of StandPoint. I am Veronica Danik-Boy. In recent times, herdsmen allegedly of Fulani descent unleashed terror in some states in Nigeria. They have reportedly killed 1,229 Nigerians between 2013 and 2014. Armed with dangerous weapons, these herders are known to attack villages and farming communities, killing and injuring innocent men, women, and children. Today on the show, we will be looking at the menace caused by the herdsmen and the way forward to achieving lasting peace in the affected communities. With me in the studio is Prince Andoase Kajo, President General Mutual Union of TIV Lagos State Chapter. Also joining us is James Aja, President Uminyigede Lagos Chapter, and Public Affairs Analyst Victor Ohai. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't murder your names.
Thank you. It's okay.
All right, now let's delve straight into the topics. Well, when 2018 began, it was blood, sweat, and tears. Size, as more than 70 persons lost their life in recent attacks in Benue State. The attacks were allegedly caused by herdsmen in villages within Guma and local government areas of Benue State. Many have called for justice for these innocent lives as the attacks continue to generate tension across the country. Herdsmen attacks appear to be commonplace in parts of the country, but the recent killings is a first since the Benue State government commenced the implementation of a law prohibiting open grazing. Governor Samuel Ortom has described the killings as an affront to the law following threats by the Herdsmen Association, the Mieti Allah, to resist the law. Now, some say the federal government's handling of the crisis may be giving room for impunity. But is that the case, Victor?
Well, obviously, even where there is justice, it must be seen to be so. Otherwise, it's not. Now, in the case of a herdsman, what you find out is across board. Let me start with what has happened in, like, the Plateau and some of these places, for instance. The pattern is usually that the herdsmen will come, raid communities, kill people there, and then when these people rise up in anger to defend themselves, the military are sent in, and usually the ones that are arrested are the aggrieved at that point, which are,
not the ones that perpetrate.
Not the ones that perpetrated it. And so the only victims that are paraded are usually the victims. The only people paraded are usually the original victims who have risen in self-defense of their lives, their properties, their wives, their children. And when you see a situation like that, then obviously it creates a sense of injustice.
All right, I come to you now, Prince. You are an indigenous of Benue State, yeah?
Yes.
So give us an insight into this, your community. You said before we came on the air, you were talking about how these attacks had happened before now and what took place. Let's have a feel of what happened.
These attacks have been very rampant. In 2013 to 2016, we recorded almost 2,000 deaths. Not talking of figures of people that were displaced, people that lost their properties and all these things. But a lot of people lost their lives, about 2,000 people. And then in 2017, it happened. So many lost their lives, and you are also witnessing what happened on New Year Day. Be that as it may, we had a good relationship with the Fulani people. As a matter of fact, my late father used to tell me that this person that could help me in this Nigerian bed, of course, that was his own relationship with them. He said, either a Cross River person or a Fulani person. And it came to pass when I went to youth service in Kaduna Refinery, NMPC Kaduna, sometime in 2003. And then a Fulani man, one Alhaji Bello Bindawa from Katsina State, was able to give me accommodation, a boys' quarter, which I stayed there. He was so good to me and all this thing. Those that came used to come around. They will stay peacefully because as pastoralists, they will settle for a while, and then as the season, in time of rainy season, they will leave, and all this. It's not as if they were indigenous or all this thing. Our people, some of our chiefs, will give them land to settle with their heads, not as if they will buy a land to live. No.
Just give them.
Yes, they will just give them by way of extending hospitality to visitors and all this. And then the relationship continued because it dates back from some of us when we were born. We heard the history of Fulani people calling us Munchi, which is a story which I believe my guy here knows.
What does Munchi mean?
It means we have eaten.
Oh, okay.
It comes from,
they left
maybe I tell the story.
cows with us, they left cattle with us, and when they came,
they met it.
They couldn't meet anything we have eaten, so they call us Munchi.
Munchi,
But
which is we have eaten.
it's a kind of name which we used to joke. If a Fulani man see me and call me Munchi, I will answer, cow, Munchi, cow, bring the cow. Bring
so when did
one.
things begin to change?
When things began to change was when the Fulanis of recent started moving with AK-47, because the ones we know them in those days, they would have their own rod, sticks, and all these things. And they were not known to be violent. But these ones would carry arms, sophisticated weapons, and they would kill the main children. They would do this thing. Around that 2013, it was much more pronounced. 2013. It had pockets of violence were happening before, but in 2013 upwards, it was much more pronounced. And
there was no issue that took place for them that made it become so pronounced.
There are issues. The cattle, we have our farms. Our people are farmers. And every person, every community has their own farmlands. Okay. And even in community, families have these lands. Even in families, they shared it amongst the people. And if, because the people will farm, and you can't expect the cattle, the herds, to be moving within the farms to be eating, and they will go there at will. Okay. And at times, crisis will emanate, will erupt in the process. And then you will see the reaction of the Fulani herdsmen not being as before, whereby some herders will come in, maybe a cattle was eating somebody's crops, the person will now get hold of either the sheep or one of the cows and all this. And then later some herders will intervene and they will resolve it amicably. They will pay a token. Now,
who pays the token? The herders?
The herders, that was before.
Okay.
But now it was an issue of when it results like that, before you know it, it's either you will see somebody is thrown dead, whichever means. So it became a source of worry and concern.
Okay, let's come to you now, James. Is this the same story from your community, from the Igede side of Benue State?
Yes, the Benue State is one in this matter. Benue is not divided along tribal lines.
Okay.
The truth remains that it is not only even peculiar to Benue State alone. It's a national thing
but our
now.
focus is
but
actually
let's
Benue.
Look at my local government, for instance. There are pockets of such incidences. And the reason why it's not rampant in the local government is that, you know, we are kind of, you know, like a landlocked from the domas surrounding us. So even the one that happened in Agatu is very close to my place. And even at present, we still have, you know, pockets of such incidences happen. For instance, a Fulani man went to, you know, lay ambush on a woman on her way from the market, stabbed her to death, and then waited until the people, when the woman was shouting, the people got to hear, and then they started coming before he bolted. So it was obvious that it's a Fulani man. You know, coming back to your earlier question, the reason why the crisis is becoming rampant now is nothing but as a result of desert encroachment. Hitherto, it used to be seasonal migration. When during the rainy season, there are still grasses up north, and they graze there in the north. And then during the rainy season, in the north, they still have grasses to graze. And then they move during the dry season to the middle belt and then down southwards when there are no longer grasses in the dry season. But now you discover that even in the rainy season, you hardly find grass in the northern parts, the extreme north of the country. So the Fulanis are gradually trying to settle in the middle belt and then perhaps try to migrate southwards. So this is creating the tension now. The reason is that, like he said, you have a farm and someone is grazing his cattle and brings the cattle and the whole crops are eaten up. And if the farmer raises a question, why are you grazing? The next thing you will see is he's stabbed to death or he's shot to death.
But now the issue is the fact that this wasn't so. It's an issue that grazing has always been. They move around with their cattle. But then at the time, they were not stabbing, they were carrying their sticks. And now one wonders what brought about the revolution of beginning to have AK-47 rifle. And then you begin to be aggressive towards someone who is an indigene of a place.
I think it's just they are getting gradually emboldened by the silence of government.
How do you mean?
For instance, the federal government has the monopoly of power of security. They have the security architecture under their control. The army, the air force, the police, the Department of State Services. Okay. But if the government is seen to be punishing those who perpetrate this, it will not reoccur. Why do you allow someone who is not trained, you have not licensed him, to carry AK-47 all about? Now, like Victor said, an incident happened. Before it even happened, before people were killed, the governor was shouting. It was in the news that Benue is under siege. No action was taken until people were killed. And when people were killed, you asked the IG to relocate to Benue. What's he going there to do? He's going there to prevent a reprisal. Up till now, as I'm talking with you now, no one has been arrested. No headsman among those who perpetrated this has been arrested. How many people does it take to kill over 70 people?
But some persons were arrested, Victor. But isn't that a part to the justice?
On the issue of arrest, this is not the first time we're hearing about people arrested. I think prosecution is the only thing that makes sense. Arrest is one thing, prosecution is another. Between the point of arrest, from the point of arrest, anything can happen. More often than not, we don't hear anything anymore. And sometimes, the idea behind saying that, cattle don't just disappear into thin air, okay? We do know that the Nigerian Armed Forces have the means and capabilities of air reconnaissance, looking at things from up above. And cattle are not chickens; they're not goats. If you go up there, when they were going after IPOB, they went with there were Air Force. Whatever, there's helicopter, there's an Air Force base in Benue City, Makurdi, if I'm correct. If such a thing happens, GSM, the distance between any two people right now is the distance between your phone and your ear. And so they get this information as quickly as possible. I would expect that and the police do have helicopters as well. I don't know if the ones in Benue, whether those ones have it or not. But as soon as it happens, you go up there, you would obviously see any group of cattle. It's not rocket science. They are not animals that are buried in the ground. You understand what I'm saying? And this is January. In January, we're already in dry season, which means you don't have any thick bushes to hide anyone anymore. Yeah. And so I fail to buy into the lies that these people disappear and they can't be found. How true is it? If they are herdsmen, they must obviously have their cattle, their flocks that they're looking after, okay? And they can't just disappear there are communities they will pass through. There are places that they will pass through. People will see them. The thing is either an unwillingness on the part of government to act, or the armed forces are looking at the body language of those in authority and reacting
of course, it cannot
to
just
the body
act
language.
Without
No,
a
that's what I'm
directive.
saying. Well, of course, you see. So the issue of directive, you know, so they're waiting. Sometimes you know what the issue of directive. If I'm in charge of security in the state, I'm a commissioner of police, for instance. I don't have to wait for Abuja to take action if something happens in my domain. If I'm a DP and there's a crime being perpetrated in my domain, a divisional police officer, I'd act immediately. Okay? So I don't need any directive unless I'm reading the body language of somebody up there, which means if I act, I may be acting contrary to perhaps the expectations of the powers that be.
All right, let's quickly take this break and return to talk more on this topic. Stay. Well, yes, you're watching StandPoint. Now, Nigeria's Agriculture Minister Audu Ogbe during the week proposed a solution to the recurring herdsmen attacks in the country. According to him, cattle colonies will stop the attack. Before now, ranching had been proposed and implemented by some states like Plateau State, but many states are against the setting up of ranches and cattle colonies in their states. They say this will spell trouble and insecurity for the people. But will the setting up of colonies bring peace to all concerned? Let's take a listen to the minister speak on this.
The strategy is for us to sit down with the herders and those who intend to go in, explain the modalities. All of them are willing to take part. But we will look for the funds to begin the process. And in anticipation, we have even spoken to the Food and Agriculture Organization. They are willing to give us some help. We're going to ask for help from elsewhere, wherever you can get it, and develop this. So once it takes off, you'll find that many of the big timers who may find it easier to work in this colony than set up their own ranches, they'll come along and do it.
Well, that's the Agri Minister there speaking about ranching or cattle colonies being to solve these issues. But before we came on the air, Prince, you were trying to talk about population density being one of the challenges, that at the time they're wearing as much persons. Mm-hmm. Go ahead and shed more light on this.
Yes, I was talking about one of the causes of this inferno, these challenges we are facing now, is population density. Why do I mean this? In those days, people were not as many as they are now. And there were no large cattle farms or whatever, as many as we have now. But due to population, this has tended to bring an effect, a negative impact on this scenario. Be that as it may, what I intend to say in this aspect is that the failure of our government to put things in order is also part of.
How do you mean the failure of the government?
Look at the nation of Israel. It happens to be in a desert. But the government of Israel, by the use of the Mediterranean Sea, the water from there, they connected it and they have made Israel is one of the agricultural nations in the world, is one out of many. You know this in Africa, here in Libya, is it in Libya? Muammar Gaddafi, Colonel Gaddafi, was able to turn the desert into an agricultural place and know it by planting grasses and some other, or articulating policies that will ensure that people are able to make use of the land.
The Agri Minister once talked about planting grasses, and people, Nigerians, raised their eyebrow.
We have grasses. Even in the north, there are grasses. So what does it mean by planting grasses? Or is it...
or curbing desertification. So what exactly...
Government can come in by way of palliatives, not by subsidizing those things, not by taking the herders as if it's a kind of giving them special treatment at the expense of farmers. No. It's just like farmlands. There are times government will give them some incentives by subsidizing fertilizers and all these things.
Okay.
Government can decide to subsidize things like that. But as we have been posting ranching, my state government have been talking about ranching, or law has been there in place for ranching. Ranching is the best because herding is a business. It's a business, and every other person. I was trying to suggest to the herdsmen, all this time they have been coming to Benue, to other places, was enough for them to buy land, to be able to do some ranches there and all this thing. But they couldn't do that.
But then when I come to you now, James, when the governor implemented the anti-open grazing bill, the Miyetti Allah group applauded him. And then again, they turned around to say that, or rather, their people were not in support of this. And some have said that that is what propelled all of this. And now the governor is saying that, suggesting cattle colonies, he is not interested in this. How do we marry both of this? Because cattle colonies, according to the Agri Minister, is a collection of ranches. And if you supported the anti-open grazing bill, which is also has to do with ranching, how is it that you are not agreeing to having colonies now?
Well, firstly, the Miyetti Allah's position initially on this issue, you know that there are two arms, there are two bodies of Miyetti Allah. There's Kautal Hore. Yes. Okay. There's one that is Kautal Hore. Those ones kicked against the anti-open grazing law. But those of them who were saying that this law will not stand and that it should be repealed and that it is a reason why this crisis or the reason why people were killed. Was this law enacted when it happened in Agatu? Was it law enacted when it happened in Gwe West? When it happened in other local government areas? The law was not there. The government did not even initiate this law. It is the people. It is the people that said the only solution to this is cattle should be kept in ranches. And then the governor took it. The State House of Assembly passed it into law, and the governor signed it. And they cannot say they won't obey the law. It's the law of the state. If you cannot obey, relocate to another state. You cannot stay in a place and say you can't obey the law. The law and the issue of colony, that concept alone, the use of the word colony alone sends a wrong signal to an ordinary person on the streets. The first thing that will come to the mind of a layman is colonialism. I believe we had gone beyond that. We are now in the 21st century. Which land does the Agri Minister want to create as a colony for cattle rearers in Benue State? Where does he have that land? Is he going to donate his personal farmland? Or which family's farmland is he going to say, take, all of us, let's contribute the land, and then ranches will now be? Do you force people to come and converge in a place and set up business together? That's what the federal government intends to do by that use of the word colony. What you do is that license people. Those who are interested in staying in Benue State get a license, they profile you, and then you apply for a piece of land. The government can even reach out to the community, and then the community willingly, some communities will give lands to them. And then they have a piece of land, and then they put their cattle in ranches. That's a sustainable way to go. The people of Benue State are united, and they are behind the governor as far as the implementation of the open grazing, anti-open grazing law is concerned. There's no going back in it. And the federal government cannot impose colonies on a state.
So if, Victor, so if I get James correctly, colonies is not the solution to this issue. Do you also share his view?
I share it for so many reasons. First of all, like you mentioned, I will just start with a little proverb. They say, if a snake has been here before, if you see a piece of string, you will run. Okay? So, for whatever it's worth, of course, I know what a cattle colony means. And it has worked in some places like Pakistan and the rest, but it is not even, they just borrowed that term. That is not the way it is supposed to be used in Nigeria here. And the way they're
supposed to be used.
No, I mean, obviously, what they're doing here is just acquiring land, okay, from how do I put it, about 5,000 hectares or so?
Yes.
You know, per state, that is willing, or across the country and all of that. And then, you know, obviously this becomes, for me, the way I see it, eventually this is going to be like herdsmen, let me not call it Fulani now, with respect to whoever, but a colony for these people in every state. You begin to have a group of people who are protected and given special privileges in every state. Why don't they create farming colonies, for instance, for Nigerians who want to farm in every state? I mean, what is good for, what is source for is good for the Ganda is source for the whatever
good for the
goose is source for the Ganda, whatever. Okay, so this, I mean, this is the impunity and the injustice we're talking about. If you're doing something, do it across board. You cannot buy, I mean, because obviously what's happening right now is that we are being browbeaten by terrorists into accepting a position that ordinarily should not sustain. What is the strategy? Get into a place, intimidate the people by whatever means possible, kill them if need be, bring them into subjection, and then the point of compromise is give us your land. Why should that be the case?
So this is an inroad.
But that's what it is. Into every state of the federation, it is wrong. Okay? Now the cocoa farmer, nobody gives him free land. You know, the groundnut farmer, nobody gives him free land. And the idea behind climate change and all of that, I understand that very well. But I want to ask this question. Don't we have Fulanis in Niger? Our herdsmen in Niger. Don't we have them in Chad? Don't we have them in Ghana? Don't we have them in Mauritania? Don't we have them in Burkina Faso? Don't we have them in Sierra Leone, in Gambia, and the other places? Why is the case in Nigeria different? Now, Niger is north of Nigeria, isn't it? Okay, and somehow, and in fact, most of the cattle that are here come from these places. How do they survive in those places? How are they able to manage without colonies? They don't have as much grass as we have. How are they able to sustain their cattle in those places? We need to begin to ask questions, you know? And if, like some people in government are claiming that the people that are coming to attack us here are non-indigenous, I say it's a failure on the part of government. Why do I say so? Why are we having immigration at the borders? Okay, you may want to argue about ECOWAS protocol and all of that. I do not disagree. If they must come into the country at all, they must come in with their passports like everybody else. Okay, we must document it. We must know who is coming into our country. They must have passports. Okay, let's know. And then if they're coming into the country as well, they also have to be under the authority of the Nigerian government.
The state of our borders.
That is a failure on the part of government. Are you giving an excuse on part of government? It therefore means that government has failed. And because government has failed, they have failed the people, they have allowed Nigerians to be killed because of their failure. Is that an excuse? Should we excuse them? Should we now surrender our land because government has failed to protect Nigerians, to protect and police our borders?
Now, I'll pick it up there for you, James. Now, does that mean that the way this issue is being handled, we are not taking the security of indigents, their lives and people and property, we are not taking it seriously?
Well, I think a member of House of Reps, a lady from Gombe State, made a statement that the herdsmen, you know, put a higher value on the life of a cow than the life of a human being. Yes. Now, that is a contraption. That is something that beats my imagination. So how do you now accommodate a person who sees a cow as more valuable than a human being? How do you say, okay, I can live confidently or comfortably without any fear with such a person? And the Benue people are people who are highly accommodating. Benue people are people who are highly accommodating. They are so hospitable that the Benue man can give a stranger anything. So if we value life so much, we place so much premium on life. Even the Fulani man, one single Fulani man is considered more of better worth than all the cows put together. So nobody will want to hurt the man. So, but if now there is this consideration of the fact that even someone who is a legislator at the national level is making that statement and is agreeing with that concept, that whole philosophy, that whole idea, I think the people in government, those who are the leaders, you know, the Fulani as a tribe, those of them in power are the owners of the cattle that roam the streets, that roam the farms.
Okay, we are talking, we can't really classify them now. We are being careful with the choice of words we use. We call them headers now.
I understand. The headers don't own the cows. They are employees of those who are in the cities. So as employees, they are sent, it's just like you investing in a business and you say, okay, just go. No provision for anything. And then you don't want to spend money to, you know, make provision and then go to anybody's land, graze, and then at the end, sell it and then return the money. That's what they are doing. That's why at that level, they are not thinking of what investment can we put in place. Let the government go and study the case of Uruguay. Uruguay has a population of about 20 million people. The cattle in that place, the number doubles that of the people, yet they are able to manage it. There's no open grazing, you know, and they provide enough beef, enough milk, even for export. Now, when Victor talked of the fact that other countries, neighboring countries, some of the cows you see, some of them migrate from there during the dry season. They migrate from Chad, they migrate from Niger, they migrate from Burkina Faso, and they come down here. And because of this complicity of government or complicity of this tribe, they tend to open the borders for them to come in. The borders are virtually open. It's so porous that anybody can just walk in and walk out. And where do they get the arms from? Where do they get it from? Like he said, if there is surveillance, if there is air surveillance, a group of people, it takes not less than 50 people to, you know, attack a village and succeed and go scot-free, fully armed. If such people are moving, is there no way the security architecture of this country can discover a mass of people moving in troops at every particular point in time?
Speaking about security of the state, one wonders what the level of security, I come to you now, Prince, is in Benue State to have seen that about over 70 persons were killed at a particular time.
The security is porous. The state governors are deceived to believe that they are the chief security officers of the states, whereas the security apparatus is in the hands of Mr. President, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that is why the state governor has made the law, the state governor with the state government has come out with the law, the anti-grazing, anti-open grazing law, law. And yet, the implementation is not as should be, because the security apparatus that will monitor this implementation and make sure they have implemented these laws to the letter, to the end, is in the hands of the federal government. I want to tell you how porous this security situation is. Gumaloho government that this thing happened is bordering Nasarawa State, about 4 local governments in Nasarawa, Awe, Kiana, Doma, and the Obi. And then in Tungwa, where our governor was able to mention where these people come and they settle, that Tungwa is also part of there. Government has known these flashpoints. The federal government has a lackadaisical attitude towards this thing. It's either, as my colleague here said, there's this silent means security people have been monitoring the body language of the federal government, not do anything. But to me, I say there's a coded language that they should. If the headers, the terrorists, let me call them.
We'll call them headers here.
Okay, I should call the heads, the killer headsmen. They come. The tactics they deploy now is that they should strike. The security will be silent. The police or whatever security people, they will be silent. When they strike, and as they succeeded killing and until they leave, when the community now gets up, just as he said earlier,
raise an alarm.
To raise an alarm, then you will see security from the north, from the east, from everywhere coming in, and they will begin to make some arrests and all this. The last time they arrested livestock guards, which were people that the government has trained to be monitoring the movement of these livestock and to be guarding them.
That brings me to my next question, Victor. When the president met with the governor of the state, he told them that they should learn to accommodate people and then their countrymen and hold back from reprisals. How is this?
That is so insensitive.
Possible? How is it possible? That's for someone who has seen how things went. How is it possible to hold back?
That is so insensitive. I mean, on the surface of it, if you do not put it in context, it seems reasonable, okay? But when you put it in context, here I am, I've just lost 70-something people, just buried them, I'm mourning, and, you know, I'm asking for help, and you're saying learn to accommodate the mass murderers. You are telling me to learn to live with people, which means you're indicting me. You're putting the blames on my doorstep, that I'm probably responsible for what has happened to me. That obviously what has happened to me is my fault, and that it is good for me. Next time, I should be a bit more accommodating. If they come to my farm, I should let them, all the yams I have planted since, labored and put together for the rest of the year that I want to use to pay my children's school fees and feed my family and all that, that these people have come to pieces and feed to their cattle that will cause me to starve, that I should just watch and accommodate it. That was so insensitive. So I didn't think that was the right thing to do at the point in time. So what I expected, the president to have done is empathize like he did when his son, I'm sorry to say, was in hospital. That emotion that he showed as a father, I expected that to have been replicated when 70-something of his children were also killed in Benue. You know, I expected him to have put his arm around the governor and said to him, you know what, we will deal decisively with this issue.
Of course, he made the statement of dealing decisively with them.
It is one thing to make a statement, it's another thing to follow up on the statement and to be seen to be doing something about it. What has happened so far? It was as a result of that the IG was deployed to the state. Where? To the state. The chief of army staff that was deployed to Maiduguri, does he live there? Have you heard anything since? Or have you forgotten? In the height of the Boko Haram crisis, when they came in, they said deploy, if army headquarters should move, in a manner of speaking, to Borno. What happened? Is that where the chief of army staff is staying? Has he slept there for 2 nights? He fled the village with his family. When they went to attack his village, he had foreknowledge and removed his people from the village before the people attacked. Have you heard that the chief of army staff is domiciled in Maiduguri? Spare me some slack, for God's sake. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. This is what it is. There's impunity on the part of government. All right, quickly, before we move on now, I'll come to you, James. Does this mean that there are chances for reprisals from the people against the headsmen?
Well, the governor is actually doing a lot, and the leaders of thought in Benue State are actually, they have a lot of respect for their leaders. People really, you know, have been calmed down by our leaders. You know, so the issue of reprisal, I don't think it will happen now, because... Now,
Meaning it could happen some other time?
Well, I cannot say, because when people are pushed to the wall, I think you should expect that they will react at some point. But the president and the government can salvage the situation if a lot of things, if the necessary things are done to see that people's, the anger in them, if it is doused by reason of getting those who perpetrated this apprehended and then prosecuted, and then there's justice for them, for those that were killed, then I think there won't be anything like that. But if the attitude of government to, as a reaction to what has happened, has left more to be desired. And so I cannot guarantee that it may not happen.
Okay, let's quickly move on now. The Senate, in the course of the week, issued a 14-day ultimatum to the Inspector General of Police to arrest the headsmen responsible for the deaths of more than 70 people in Benue. They came up with the resolution at the end of a 6-hour debate on the interim report and recommendations of the committee that reviewed Nigeria's security infrastructure. Some senators also called for a declaration of a state of emergency in the entire country and establishment of state police. Now, others wanted a review of the ECOWAS protocol to prevent free movement of foreign-trained mercenaries through Nigeria's porous borders. Now, we have already talked about the state of our borders, but then Prince calling for a declaration of a state of emergency in the entire country, though, is that what we need?
That call for declaration of the state of emergency in the entire country. If I was conversant with the constitutional provisions, I would say it's fine. I don't know, because by doing it, by imposing the state of emergency in Nigeria, it means Mr. President will have to step aside. Somebody else will come in that will bring the solution to Nigeria, so that, because the security apparatus are in his hands, but he has nothing to do. He has nothing to offer. He has failed the people. He has failed Nigerians. And therefore, a state of emergency will be declared in the entire country. He will step aside. Maybe his vice will come in, it could be the Senate President, all these things. That's why I say I'm not conversant with the constitutional provisions on the state of emergency as regards Nigeria. But when it comes to Benue State, the governor has done excellently well by ensuring that at every point in time, he reports to the presidency. He calls them, he gives them a full information, a pre-information before it happens. Even all the threats of the leaders of Mieti Allah, Kauta, Hori, and Mieti Allah, Cattle Breeders Association, and all these things. He was able to furnish the presidency with all those information, yet nothing happens to it. So a state of emergency on the part of declaring it to the whole country, Nigeria, is welcome, but not so to our state, for Benue, because it does not even call for.
Victor, you've been smiling. You want to say something?
Well, yes, because, I mean, what you said, obviously, the federal government has failed on this one. There's no two ways about it. I mean, we are quick to sympathize with when one person is killed in Paris or two people are killed in the US, we are quick to sympathize and send letters and emissaries and, or just, condole with foreign powers. But it's like the big question should be now, what is the value of human life in Nigeria? Lives are not just statistics, okay, 70, somebody will say 78 people die. Say, no, it's not 78, it's just 73. And we begin to debate as if one life is not worth anything at all, okay? And then we look at, cattle right now is like, okay, so people have it. So in short, just to be able to answer your question straight, the Nigerian government has failed us at the federal level. There is a state of insecurity right now everywhere. People are scared. Ogun State, I was looking at television the other day, some communities, is it Ogun State or I don't even remember now. I saw even in Kwara and some other places, you could see fear in the faces of some people, some communities. People are scared. If that is not terrorism, tell me what is. Yet, terrorism, tell me what is. Yet, the government has failed to call the perpetrators of this act. The perpetrators, I say. I'm not calling Fulani, I'm not saying whatever, but the perpetrators of this act, the government has failed to call them terrorists. But the international community has labeled them as the fourth most dangerous terrorist organization in the world. Yet our government cannot take a cue from that. They are holding back from, and I want to ask the question, why? Unless there's a vested interest. I'd like to have an answer.
All right, now, James, there is going to be, the Senate already is looking at holding a security summit. Well, to look at all these issues of security that we have been challenged with. What, from your point of view, being, and well, we know that all of these security challenges is across the country. What, from your point of view, should be those things that should be looked at thoroughly?
Thoroughly, they should look at the a kind of program or policy that would educate the herdsmen to the reality of the 21st century farming methods. And then they should begin to, look at, study the anti-open grazing law that the Benue State government has just enacted, and then look at the other states that have also come up with such laws, and then make it a national policy, and then enact a law that will give a national outlook to it. Because that it's not sustainable for us to continue to go through this cycle over and over again. If we think that we have gone to douse the tension now, and then a year down the line, maybe 2 years down the line, it will not happen, I can bet you that it will not, these incidents will not stop unless these people are checked. They are highly regulated. I don't think the law allows people to carry arms without being licensed. And I don't think there's a license for AK-47. So the security agencies should, the Senate should come up with that summit. At that summit, let them invite all the stakeholders, all the stakeholders as far as this issue is concerned. The farmers, there are other farmers that are neglected. Some people say they've not done much. Like the Minister of Agriculture said, that they've not done much for cattle rearers. Some of us remember the amount of money spent on nomadic education. Now, the president, the leaders of the Senate, all the people in power, it takes just a statement for people to understand, for people to change their mindset, for people to begin to think twice about what they have. They are convinced that this is the best way to do something. The president coming out to tell the people that nobody should kill each other any longer in my country. No matter who you are, if you should kill, you will be held responsible, and I will make sure I deal with you. If the president can come up with such statements, and when the incident in Benue happened, should the president wait and then invite, or wait until the governor and the leaders from Benue go to meet him? That's not what happened. Best practice all over the world. Wherever there is a crisis, the leader goes to that place to commiserate with the people. Take your presence there. Take the government there. The president, rather than telling the IG to go there, should have just mobilized the security team to go with him to the place. And even those who are planning anything will see that, no, it's a no-go area.
All right, quickly, because we are running out of time. Prince, I come to you now. Your last words, and it has to, I want you to focus on the fact, the implication of this, knowing that Benue is the food basket of the nation, the implication on food security.
The implication is that Nigeria is no longer secure as far as food is concerned, because these things have been happening. The farmers will not settle in their places to farm because for fear of anything. There's palpable tension. There's fear. There's everything. Farmers will not have to settle down to do whatever form of farming, because you don't know from which angle the herders will come and strike. I want to suggest something.
Quickly, because we are running out of time.
Program. The federal government should be proactive. Because of destructions and a lot of damages in the Benue Valley, federal government should come up with a policy. They should maybe create by constitutional means a commission, Central Nigeria Development Commission, or whatever you call it, Central Commission. We don't accept ourselves to be the North Central, as you call us. We are either Central Nigeria or Middle Belt. So
the Senate
there should be a commission that will address
a motion that wanted to create a Central Development Commission.
Yes,
rejected it
and
still.
also they should also proscribe the herders, the Fulani herdsmen, as terrorists.
Okay, thank you very much. We need to, you are running out of time. Quickly, in 2 seconds. Victor?
Well, here's what I want to say. I think that what is going on right now is a shame. It should never happen. If the government is truly sincere, then the thing to do is, if we're talking about desertification in the north, there's a river that runs from Niger right through, down. And that river does not dry. Go Kaduna River, you have Rima River, Kano River, all of those places. There is irrigation in the north. That's where we farm rice. Rice grows on paddy, which means there is arable land for farming in the north, for grazing in the north. Let us develop it. Let us, issue of desertification, let's see how we can do reforestation in the north and then secure that place once again and stop this issue of, and stop using climate change as an excuse, and stop excusing murderers and saying that it is, that they have to survive.
All right. Quickly, Prince. Okay, let me allow you, let Prince just land quickly.
Okay, I'd wanted to suggest that because the Sambisa forest is not inhabited, federal government should use it as a grazing, national grazing
excellent.
reserve.
Excellent.
And also,
excellent.
Calling on for restructuring.
James,
yeah.
now.
Yes, there is palpable fear all over the land.
All right.
The government should change its security architecture. Or, as I talk to you now, Zamfara State is also under siege. These are states that produce rice. Benue State is the food basket of the nation. I can bet with you that if this issue is not addressed, farmers will not be able to. It will translate into food shortage, it will translate into inflation, it will translate into a lot of insecurity for the country. Thank you very much.
Well, I must say thank you, gentlemen, for your insight on the topic. Thank you so much for taking time to come on the show. Well, that's how we wrap up the show today. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, you can watch a repeat of the show tomorrow at 7 a.m. I'm Veronica Danikboy. Enjoy your weekend. Bye now.